What's up, you guys? Welcome back to church. Warren and I here. Good to see you guys again. Excited for this episode. Warren, this was your brainchild. I'm very excited to dive into it. It's something that, I wore special, for those on YouTube can see I wore special fit for. We're talking about travel today. And so for me, I think of travel like fun, interesting, potentially rewarding, things like that. What made you want to talk about travel? Why was that on your heart, or why did that make your list?
Oh man, travel has just been such an awesome experience in my life. I think most people know that I'm a retired Navy guy, did 21 years in the Navy, and courtesy of the U.S. Navy, I have been all over the world. I mean, I've had adventures and travel, and just the exposure from being in different places, different cultures, seeing this amazing planet that God has put us on is just mind blowing. I think I love science because it just proved that He exists, and so being able to experience just cultures and people and places that are just so beautiful. I mean, when God put this planet together, it's amazing. And so
did something cool.
Yeah. And so one of my things is to encourage people to get out and see the world as much as you possibly can. And whatever that looks like for you. I think it puts into perspective that where you are is not it, and sometimes we can think so small, and what travel does, it opens you up into a whole new world. It's one thing to see it online. It's another thing to experience it in person. And that's just, even if you're in the US or whatever country you're from, just making it around your own country can be mind blowing and just amazing. So I just thought it was a topic well worth tackling, Jason.
No, I agree. I think sometimes, like, without travel, or especially before the internet and YouTube and video could be found of under the sea and outer space and all these things, I imagine it was easier to feel stuck. And so it's an interesting question I have of, did we feel stuck, or did we not realize what we were missing? That's kind of an interesting idea, is like, before you could see video of the Maldives or the Philippines, or what does Taiwan look like this time of year? And now I can video chat with friends in Japan. Before, I didn't have any of that, right? And societally speaking, like, I think in my lifetime, I've had quite a bit of that. But before all of this, did people feel content where they were? And then maybe travel opened them up? And I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting perspective or question, because the first thing I thought of when I thought of travel is that everywhere is unique. So everywhere has their thing, whether it's the culture or like the people, the spaces, the locations, the landmarks. There's something that everywhere has that makes it unique, whether it's to a single person or to an area, like a tourist attraction kind of thing. Like, I think about, if I drive up and down Warwick Boulevard in Newport News, Virginia, I can drive past my high school. And so to me, there are hundreds of people, thousands of people that drive by every day. But to me, it's a special place full of memories. And so that place became unique because of the memories tied to it. And so it's not necessarily somewhere I would book a flight and travel back to if I wasn't nearby, but it's definitely somewhere that's unique and special. And so I think metaphorically, where we travel in our lives makes places unique. But I also think specifically, there are places that are truly unique and just fun that I love and feel special. And places I've never been. Yeah. So I've gotten the opportunity to go to places like Puerto Rico, Florida. I have to be real with you, or we have to be honest about it, that there could be people listening that have never left their hometown. And so I don't want to take that for granted. You mentioned traveling around your country. Well, the U.S. is a huge country relative to some of the sizes of other nations in the world. And you can get mountains, and the beach in the same state.
Yeah.
Sometimes within an hour of each other.
Yep.
So I've had the opportunity to travel to both coasts. I've had the opportunity to see quite a bit of the country, whether it was through work travel or just family travel. I know you're in Memphis, Tennessee, or in that area.
Woo-hoo.
We got to go there last
Memphis.
summer. Yeah. We got to go to church conference there last summer. So you get to meet different people, hear different accents, get to see different cultures, man, culinary, right? Like the food, the kind of dietary choices people make around the world. I find so interesting how that's affected by travel and geography and how much that we brought with us. You know, like I don't know that they were made in France, but we have French fries that are kind of a unique American thing, relatively speaking. There's just ways that I think as technology got better, as modes of transportation got better, that things were opened up, cultures were opened up to each other. And so I think that's cool that everywhere has their unique culture and then they can all combine. So that was kind of my first thought. And I guess that would prompt a question. What is the most unique place that you have ever been to? Because you have traveled so much more.
That's a
so
hard
much more than most people.
question.
So get you, if you want, if it makes it easier, a top 3 is totally acceptable. Most unique places.
Oh man. Wow. Most unique places.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that could be different, special.
Wow.
What makes something like really, what places did you go? Like, what's the first thing pops in your head that somewhere that made an impact on you? Like maybe you looked over the side of the ship and you were like, wow. Or just, you know, somewhere you got off the port and you were like, this place, this is wild.
What was like a really just a shocker is kind of like Asian Pacific, specifically Japan was just like a culture shock.
Okay.
Like,
yeah. So where'd you go in Japan?
Well, so I lived in Japan for 3 years. I lived in not too far from Yokohama, which is not too far from the capital there. And so I was forward deployed in Yokosuka, Japan. And so Japan it's a very interesting culture. And the biggest thing the impact that Japan left on me was that crime is a total different concept in Japan. Like,
okay,
it's nothing to see like a 4-year-old on the subway by themselves. No parents in sight, going to school. Like, it's nothing. People don't lock their cars. Like,
okay,
especially in places where American sailors and Marines aren't.
yeah.
You know, and so it's a different level of like, people don't lock their homes at night in Japan. It's, and when you live there, you kind of, you kind of take on some of those traits because it's a part of the culture that crime, it's a different thing. Crime does exist there, but not the kind of crime you see like in America type crime, like robberies and stuff like that. There's a high culture of honor and respect. Their elders are treated differently, different levels of respect. So it was just shocking because it's, I wouldn't say it's more of a selfless type culture, but it's a culture that's really built on heavy levels of honor and respect. When you ask for help in Japan, like if they speak English, they're going to try to get you to somebody who can. They're just a different type of culture it's just shocking. And the food there is amazing. I'm just saying, it's off the chain.
You like Japanese food?
Yeah. It's a very dense country though. So, I wouldn't say Japan's like one of the prettiest places I've been. It's very populated. It's pretty dense. But the culture there is just amazing. One place I went to that just kind of just it's gorgeous to me is Singapore. And I know Singapore is a very wealthy country, right? But it's an awesome place. It's probably one of the most beautiful places I've been to. Let's see. I've already given you 2. I feel like I'm being biased.
That's good.
Here.
Okay. No, it's good.
I feel like I'm being biased here. I really enjoyed Ireland.
Okay. Why is that biased?
I don't know, because man,
Oh,
I just feel like, I have so many great places I've been to. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
there's some amazing spots in the Middle East that are just like, wow, this is amazing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're trying not to be like, well,
Yeah,
to the detriment of somewhere else. It's like
Yeah.
you've been somewhere specific. Now, I think that's true too, because there could be people that have been to Japan and only go to Tokyo. And let's say they love the city. So they're getting that feeling of like a populace that's like overwhelmingly big, and you have something to do all the time, and the neon lights everywhere and the traffic, and they love the honking of the cars. Then there's people who love the country. Now, I know both exist in Japan, but if somebody dropped you off in Tokyo, Japan, and you only wanted that country life where everywhere is walking distance and you wanted peace and quiet and birds chirping, I'm sure it's harder to have that experience. And so is that what you're saying? Like in Ireland, you had a good experience. So it's a biased kind of like opinion. I think that's true of everything though. I don't know if you could travel somewhere and call somewhere unique or special and not have your bias on it, because I would say, if you went to Japan and had these amazing experiences, tried this amazing food, and nothing negative happened to you, you would leave being like, I'll come back. And then if you went to Japan and like, your plane had no air conditioning, and then you get to the hotel and it's infested, and all these things, like there's little things that happen to us where it impacts our perception of a place. And so the challenge is to get outside of that.
Yeah.
Right. To get really in it and kind of figure out where we fit in that place. And I think for some people that's a challenge. Like for some people that impacts the uniqueness. And by the way, if you love the mountains and I love the beach, but we go to the opposite places, the story you would tell would be totally different.
True.
If you hate the beach, you're like, man, the beach is just hot. You get sand everywhere. And then, as soon as you get wet, it's freezing cold, but then the sand is sticking to you. And for me, I would describe the beach like, man, you go in the ocean, it's like a spiritual experience, man. God created this thing and you feel like you're communing with nature and you're getting vitamin D. Like you could spin anything. Maybe that's a good lesson for us, is like, just like in life, in travel, you can spin things, you can talk about things positively or negatively, and it will impact your mindset toward those things. So I didn't expect that kind of metaphor to pop up in our travel episode, but
it's good.
If you're going to go somewhere, look for the good things. If you're going to interact with people, if you're going to interact in the world, look for the good stuff about wherever you're at.
It's the experience of experiencing something new. When I think about travel in general, that's why it's hard for me to pick like most unique places, because I think I've enjoyed every place I've been to. There have been some places that have really broken my heart, because you realize just how the comforts we have are like, they're just assumed. We're Americans. We assume that this is how everybody lives. I've went and I've dug wells for people so they can have like we went, and that's the whole mission, that we were there to go help build schools and build a playground, and they needed that stuff like that. And honestly, I've learned from those cultures I've been to, that I've had the privilege of visiting, and like they have like what we would say nothing, not a poverty line, like below the poverty line. Like there's no line, like there's just, and it's funny because these are some of the most happiest people, and they would share anything with you. And you're like, I don't understand. You have very little, but you guys are like so happy. And then I've been places where we went there to help, and they were like, yeah, we're not really concerned about you guys. And so it gives you kind of like a gauge of like, the more you really have, does it really make you happy? What you have does not make you happy, because I know people who are sleeping under the stars at night, and they are literally waking up the next morning like, we got to go get, there's no refrigerators here. We got to go get the meal. Like we have to go and produce it, however, and they are happy, whole, filled, they're just, and so I don't think that the different cultures, the more we have, doesn't really drive our happiness. And I think sometimes that being able to see things and experience things like that, you're like, I would be miserable here. Well, would you be miserable because you don't have running water?
Right.
Would you be miserable because you don't have a roof over your head? Or, you don't have like internet. Like, imagine if you lived in a place without internet. Would you just want to not exist? Would you like? How would you navigate through that? Because there are people in the world who don't have these things, right?
Yeah.
And what I learn and get to experience and have experience from them is that they don't need them. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
ultimately the stuff that we depend on every day, we don't need them. They're niceties, right? But they don't need them to be happy. They don't need them to have a good life, And so, to me, being open minded and experiencing different cultures really is the joy of like just traveling. And I know my experience is a little unique, but it's been awesome to see just the different people that God has made and how we move through this world. I've had the honor of being able to spread the word of God in different places around the world, and even that's received differently. There's just places where it's not okay to talk about Jesus openly.
Yeah.
It's not okay to share your faith, and being able to do that and have that experience with people just makes you take what we have here in our country, and in most Western countries, um, the privilege of having, what we call free speech, or, the ability to express ourselves is just so it's 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 a privilege, but it comes at a high price. And so I think we honor that by, you know, talking about Jesus as much as we can and living the best life we can. And so I think when it comes down to travel, I think it gives you a broader scope of what God has done. You know, I think sometimes we can get so bogged down in life
Mm-hmm.
about us. Our life, it's about me. And then most people they travel to forget they're us. They just go places to be served, right? They go places to enjoy themselves and relax, right? One thing that I think that every person should experience, especially if you are walking this life out, living it for Jesus, is go on a missions trip. It will change your life. I think most people pack their suitcase to go have a good time. Pack your suitcase to go help someone who is less fortunate than you, to go
Yeah.
spread the love of Jesus with someone in a place that is not as modernized as the one you live in. And it will definitely change your perspective. I think, and for me, that some of my best memories were holding church services in open fields and in tents, and it being hot and uncomfortable, but seeing the
Yeah.
smiles on kids' faces, as you talk about, the stories of the Bible, is an amazing experience. And so I think for me, I draw from that, and that just kind of makes it puts a different spin on being able to touch different cultures. It's so much needed that the word gets spread throughout the world, and I think we're called to the world. And so travel has kind of that twofold thing, like vacation, but I think for Christians, being a part of missions at least once in your life is an experience, a service, an experience you should definitely look forward to and get involved in. And especially if you are a young adult, if you're a high schooler, like before you graduate, if you can get on a missions trip, man, it may
Mm.
change the direction of your life. It may
Yeah.
change what you choose to do with your life. I just think it's something that's well worth uh worth getting into. And so I've got some adult kids. Two of them, followed me in the Navy, and they've got a opportunity to kind of see other places. And so I'm pushing my kids into things that kind of puts them out there. Jason, I know your kids are not getting ready to leave. You got a long time, man.
We got a minute.
You got
Well, I
a
mean,
minute.
it's not as far as it feels like. So we got one that's about 4 years away.
That's
So
right.
our oldest is 14.
That's
So he's
right.
not like crazy. And by the way, this is something unique about our life that I'm thankful for, that even I didn't have necessarily, is that we have just decided as a family to travel.
Let's go.
So we took all of our kids, yes, all 8, on an airplane to Puerto Rico.
Let's go.
Last summer. I want to say last summer.
So
2 summers ago.
So you're not going to speed past that. You got all 80 of you guys on an airplane?
Yeah. Well, yeah, 10 of us. I mean, it wasn't without chaos or calamity. So my wife and our fourth, they actually missed the flight. So they had to catch one. Like they flew somewhere. We drove to Orlando and they didn't give us his boarding pass. So my wife and him had to, like, little Christopher, man, they had to go and like fly to New Jersey, then down to Puerto Rico or something. It was some crazy connection that went further from where we were going. And that's sometimes the chaos of travel. Like, traveling can cost you something.
So you guys got separated?
Yeah, it was wild. And I had no choice but to leave her because I have all the other kids. So I had a baby in my lap. Yeah, I was like dripping sweat, we were getting to the gate late, and they almost weren't going to hear how about this. This is a crazy story. They almost weren't going to let me on the plane because my baby's boarding pass, so Aiden, who was about a year and a half old at the time.
Yeah.
His boarding pass said Delia's name. And so they had to call Homeland Security.
Wow.
Get them on the phone in order to okay and like check social security numbers, because my name was on the other kids' boarding passes, but because of course he was going to be a lap baby with my wife, we never put my name on his boarding pass. It's just hers. Wow. And I think that was the whole story. By the way, I could be getting the story wrong, because thank goodness for wives that handle the logistics of travel. So she handled a lot of that stuff, like the ticketing and things. But yeah, we finally got there. It was it was like 6 hours later. We picked them up from the airport separately after we were in Puerto Rico and all that. But the kids had a blast. It did not hurt our time there. We got to see a bunch of the island, drove through the jungle. From anybody that's been there, we drove from Hatillo, which is like central north of the island, roughly. We drove through the jungle, the middle of the island, winding roads in the rain. It was the craziest drive of my life.
Wow.
To Ponce, which is kind of a coastal city on the south side of the island. I mean, we got to see a bunch of it. And so talk about different environments, different cultures, unique cultures, things like that. Just so many cool experiences to be had somewhere where that like English isn't necessarily the primary language, like Spanish and English are kind of intermixed. That's been cool. But see, my kids have gotten to do that. Whereas I think my first time on an airplane, I was 16, 17. So they've been to, if I start naming the places, I'm kind of blown away by the opportunities that my kids have had. Yeah. So they've been to New York City like it's nothing.
Let's go.
Because her family, my wife's family was from up there. Yeah. So we've been up there once or twice every year or so. Like it's kind of like that. Florida is just a regular thing. Okay. South Carolina, we have family that lives down there. So up and down the coast. And then I went to graduate school in Vermont. So up and down, my wife drove that a couple times. I've driven that a few times through Boston, got to see not go in it, but see the outside of the National Basketball Hall of Fame. Everything's always related back to basketball. Things like that, like experiences like that. So I've gotten to see all these unique places. I have something crazy to say to you. Ready? I've seen all these unique places. I've done all these unique things. I want to get your take on this. And this is like a hot take by me that I'm willing to edit or change based on this conversation. I would say everywhere is unique and everywhere is the same. Ooh. So we have traveled to Puerto Rico. I have driven the interstates of the highways in Puerto Rico around the edges of a tropical island. And multiple times I've had the thought, this looks just like the drive to Northern Virginia. Like there's highway, there's a little foliage here. It doesn't look extra tropical, right? Now, I'm not saying that you can find a beautiful, clear glass water beach in Northern Virginia. But within reason, I have found everywhere to kind of be the same. Everybody is looking for interaction with people. Everybody has jobs. There's traffic most places, and it's at varying degrees. I get it. But the movement of life and the spaces seem the same. Like when you lay your head on a bed, within some reason, it's like a pillow and a mattress. And I just thought that was really interesting as I traveled, is there are unique things about each place, but at the same time, I always find myself being like, man, it would be nice to get home.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've realized about home is everywhere is kind of the same in that your unique experience is tied to that thing. So we moved from Portsmouth, Virginia to Rich Square, North Carolina. We went from the 757, the 11th most populous area.
757.
Yeah, here we go. 11th most populous area in the country.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I looked it up. It could be more now because military's there, all these things. So we moved down to a town that has like 5,000 people in it. And that's like spread out. I think it's fine. I mean, it could be way less than that, to be honest.
I've been to your town.
That's what I'm saying. It's itty bitty, man. So, and that's great. Like, I actually think it's a cool vibe. It's been good to give our kids space and area to play, country living, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I have found is that people are still people. Nature is still nature. And wherever I'm with my family, that place is home. So we loved our home in Portsmouth because that's where our memories were tied to. In fact, the day we moved out, I'll never forget, my son Matthew had a cry on my shoulder the last time that we locked the door. Because you lock it, you're moving out, you're locking the door, that's it. And then now at our home in Rich Square, we've lived since June of 21 that we started renting, and then August of 21 we closed. Mm-hmm. So since 2021, we've been there. It's not like his whole life. He's 12, so he's probably 9. We moved, something like that. And now this is home. So all of his memories are now starting to get tied to this place. Mm-hmm. And so now he would be heartbroken if we left this place. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it is different, but everywhere is kind of the same.
Yeah.
Like people are at restaurants, they want to interact. The food might be a little different, but people are still hungry. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to work. The traffic might be a little different, but the rhythms of life are the same. And I find that to be comforting. I don't find that discouraging. Like, I still think you should travel, but there's been times where I'm traveling and I think, man, I could easily live here just like I live there. Mm-hmm. So I guess what it does for me is realizing everywhere is kind of has similar rhythms, similar experiences to be had.
Yeah.
You just get to choose it, but it helps me keep in perspective to love where I'm at. Mm-hmm. The grass is not greener. It's all green grass. So what is your take on that? Am I wrong? Is everywhere like, do you find like, what is your experience in terms of your mentality towards everywhere kind of having similar things? Are you like, no way? Like everywhere is so different, I can't even imagine? Or
so you've kind of hit it on the head. So the difference is that the places look different. The food is different, but the people are the people. And even the people are different, but the same. Like you said, every place is different, but every place is the same. Like, yeah. I mean, I've been to Korea. There's stoplights. You're driving along you're driving on the highway. Okay. It's got guardrails, Yeah. It's the same. I've been in Spain. Yeah, driving in Spain. Yeah, it got guardrails. Thank God, because
cliff's edge. Yeah,
but it's different, but it's the same. I equate it to, and I agree with you. I equate it to that the grass is green. Like it's not so much about the place; it's about the people. And my children have taught this to me. My oldest son has been with me. Like we kind of grew up together. I had this guy when I was 18. And so for him, he's a misfit. He doesn't know where he belongs. So he just claims where I come from. Like, you ask him, he's like, I'm from Houston, Texas. But this guy was born in Houston, lived in New Jersey, went from New Jersey to California to Hawaii to Japan. Like he went to so many schools throughout his life. And so I think when he looks back over his life, he doesn't remember the places. He remembers his siblings and he remembers the events. He remembers us, And so I think as we talk about different places, right? It's more about the experiences with people that you have in these places that you remember. You kind of remember the people and the experiences versus the location. right? I'll be remiss to be like, when I think about my kids' birthdays and be like, you remember your 7th birthday? I'll remember the birthday, but I won't really remember where we were. Like, were we in Washington? Where were we overseas? We just remember that it was your birthday and this happened. Right.
Yeah.
And so, I think you're hitting on, you pointed out something very important there, and perspectively wise, right? That if you think that, I got to move to New York City to be happy, or that there's a place on earth that's going to make or fulfill your life, right?
That's right.
That's just not the case. I got one caveat, and I'm saying this, but, right?
With the exception of Memphis,
yeah. Right. But I think you are right on track with that, because it's not about the place. It's about the people you're connected with. And number one, it's about the God that you're connected to. Because sometimes God sends us to places that we don't really want to be at, especially if you're in the military. Shout out to all my military people. We get orders. They're not called wants. They're called orders. So you got to go, right? Sometimes you get no choice in it. And I'm gonna tell you, some of the best experience I've had were places I didn't want to be. Not because I got there and I fell in love with the place. It's because most of the time I took people I loved with me to that place. And we made memories, and we made those places great. And so don't fall in love with the place, fall in love with the people. And fall in love with the mission that God has put on your life in that particular place.
That's right.
I think it's amazing. One thing, I'd be remiss to not mention this, one thing that just I'll never get used to. And I spent 15 years at sea out of my 21 amazing years in the Navy. One thing I'll never get used to is being on the open ocean, and as far as your eyes can see, that there's just water, that there's just, and I spent some time driving or navigating a destroyer, like on the bridge wing, just privileged, and just I got to just spend hours just looking at the horizon as I'm navigating the ship through the water, and I'm like, I don't even know. Okay, I do know how deep the water is, but I can't fathom like that there's that much water under this ship, right?
Yeah.
And the way the ship's designed, it's holding us up, and I'm like, there's more water on this planet than there is land. And I'm just so amazed, like, just how God put this place together. And then he put us on this place. And so it's funny. I spent years in the military, but I really don't understand war. I mean, when it comes to executing war, I'm probably a tactician. We can get it done. Right. But I don't understand why it exists. I mean, because if we all could just, really take the perspective of how amazing it is to be alive at this point in time, to be on a planet that God has created. And I know we've got all this stuff, global warming and this and that, but I think this place has been here as long as it's been here because God wants it here. And when it's time to change, I think God's going to be the one to change it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think war exists because sin.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like I mean, I know you know why.
In your perspective,
but it's for some people it's not enough.
Yeah, but
I was gonna tie it back to what you were saying was like like realizing that the grass is green everywhere.
Yeah.
I think that's why we're saying it out loud, because I would say the warmongering leaders of the world, right? They want more. Like what they have isn't enough.
Yeah.
Or if they see what someone else has, they want that. Or if someone is their enemy, they just don't want them to have what they have. They want to destroy what they have.
Yeah.
And it's a power play. And I think in a microcosm, like, so that's kind of, I think, the key to talking about travel today is be aware that it's not always better. And it's not like you need more. I didn't expect this from this episode today, but that's what I'm getting from it is like travel is great, but you don't need it. You don't need more. You don't need extra. Because when you get to that other place that you think is better, you'll realize it was about the journey. And I know that sounds cliche, but the intensity of travel, the packing bags and like fighting traffic and waiting for airplanes and driving hundreds of hours and however far you need to go. Those kind of things, like if you're not enjoying all of that, then the few days that you get to spend in some exotic location or a different place than when you typically spend your time, I honestly think like maybe just take a staycation, like just stay home and kind of enjoy the people around you, because I think that's what it really is. It's cool to see the Grand Canyon, but for me, and this is not for everybody, like for some people that is like life-changing thing. For me, I would want to go with people that have changed my life.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that's a huge, really beautiful, really majestic hole in the ground.
Pretty much.
You're like, man, that's really cool. I would very much like to watch a YouTube video of that. Yeah. Like if I'm by myself, I feel like I can watch high def video of drone shots where like, drones and underwater gear for oceans. And they can go places I can never go anyway. So I'll just enjoy the technology of it all and like stay home. And I think some people think that's crazy. Like you need to experience it. I'm like, I don't know that I need to. What I need to experience is relationship with people, because I think that's what's really important. And so I guess that's what I was saying is like, people are people. Everywhere feels kind of the same. I'm grateful for what you talked about, the majesty and size of the world. Like if just the scale helps reveal to us a small measure of the scale of what God is, who God is, and why God is, like what he's doing and all those things, that's what makes me grateful. Like, I think we talked about this in an early episode of the pod. That's a little ad. Y'all go back and listen to see which episode it is. But where I like to look up. Like if you just look at the stars, it's like, man, those are places I will never travel to. Like I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to a different planet. Yeah, 100%.
One of Mars, baby.
I'm Earth locked. If it was available to us, I still would not go. I am Earth bound. So there's too much to do here. There's too much time, and we can't get it all done. I'm sorry. There's not enough time, is what I meant. So we can't get it all done here while I'm on Earth. So I don't have time for another planet. Yeah, like we got stuff to handle here, and I will let others handle Mars. And I think that's totally fine. That's just like me. Like I will probably never live permanently. As I say it out loud, it's going to happen. Like I will never live in Russia, like in Siberia. I just cannot imagine that's ever going to happen. So, right. Like this is not like a test. I'm not testing God. Yeah. Like I don't want to, but I probably will not. And I think that's okay. Because there are people that will do that and they have time to handle that. And I need to handle things stateside with my family. And I'm sure we'll travel. My wife and I talked about looking at our ancestry and traveling to each country.
Let's go.
That's in our ancestry.com profile or 23andMe. I don't mean to advertise one over the other, but just going where our origins are. And I think it would be cool. But again, the coolest part to me is our origins now are with each other. Like we built a family. So really it's wherever we go, that's where we're leaving our mark. And that's the history that we're making. So I like the present and all those things.
I love how I love that idea of you guys looking at your ancestry and being like, let's visit those countries. That's a great concept. I wouldn't use 23andMe or the other ones, right? Because I think I already know my ancestry. Okay. And I think
you wouldn't use them?
Nah.
Why not?
I don't.
You don't want to get your DNA on record?
I think for people looking for that information, I think they provide a great service. But I'm more of an instinct type person, and I just think I don't know. Some reason I think I'm Hawaiian. That's my.
I feel
I'm just gonna adopt it, and that's just me
pushing that.
People who know me are like, shoot.
That's it.
That guy belongs on the island. Like,
yeah. Talk to us. Can you talk to us about that a little bit? I know that's like a super special place for you. Like lay out Hawaii for us.
Ooh. So
actually, here's what I would say. Pitch me. Like I got my Hawaiian shirt on.
You?
Give me the elevator pitch. Give me the 5-minute, like, why should I move to Hawaii?
Wow. Oh man. So I would say this. I don't think Hawaii is like for everyone.
Okay.
My experience,
you
because
try to keep it for yourself.
People get like island fever, and this may be more of a sailor term. I don't think the locals get this there. But the island's only so big. It's, and I spent most of
Mm.
my time on Oahu and got to visit the other islands. But for me, it was number one. It's the culture outside of the beauty of the island, right? Because there are islands all over the world. Hawaii is beautiful, but there's just, like you
Yeah.
said, I mean, there's just
There
beautiful.
could be other beautiful ones as
Yes,
well.
and so it's the culture of the local people. Like aloha is real. It's
Okay.
just the culture of how they treat people. And so my experience is I landed in Hawaii at 21. A little bit over 2 years in the Navy. And just trying to like figure life out. And I stayed on my base, I think, for the first 6 months. Didn't leave the base. I was on Pearl Harbor. I was there.
Okay.
Went to work, you know, work, lived on the ship and didn't go too far, didn't venture too far out. When I finally left off the base and started experiencing Hawaii and meeting people and going to church there, because I was at the chapel on base, and just how they treated people. And I'm from a great state. I'm from Texas. Okay. From Texas, you from
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah.
And we have Southern hospitality. You hardly meet a stranger. There's something different about the way the Hawaiian people treat each other and all the people who inundate their island. um, they it's crazy because the native Hawaiians and Samoans a lot of them can barely afford to live there, but you won't be able to tell that because of just how great they treat people. And maybe that's just my
Mm.
experience being involved in church and missions there. And so it's kind of like a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And then add all the rest of the stuff on top of it. It's life in paradise. It's
Hmm.
and I am not necessarily like a beach guy. I don't mind the beach. I'll go. But the beach isn't the most important thing to me. So for me, it's really just the culture, the Hawaiian spirit there, and just the family connections there. I think I just got roots there. I think I spent the majority of my military career. I landed there in 2001. I think I left in 2008, maybe somewhere around there. I'm getting old now.
No, you're good.
So,
All right.
just the beautiful places, the people, and
Yeah.
I feel like I have a mission there, to help the local people there, and so I think that's just a call in my life to go back there and spread the love of Christ and to, just bring some inspiration to that place, because I think it's done such a big um thing in my life, and so I think as you move through life, there are places that will always be special to you. It's a very
Yeah.
special place to me. And I have a couple more, but I think that's the top of my list. Um, for me, also, I've been to places that just make me proud to have the experience I am. I've been all over the world, and I've told people, I was like, they'll say America is the greatest place on earth, and I
Mhm.
would agree with you. I'm a patriot. I've served this country for 21 years. And although we're not perfect, I don't want to be a citizen of another country.
That's right.
But there's some great places that I take nothing away from them. If I couldn't be American, I know where I'm going. And I'm like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I got a list, and so, but there's places that just you're just like, wow, this every place is different, but then the people just make it so different. Like, I mean, every place can be the same, like the same, setup in life and grass is green, but there's just
Yeah.
places where you're like, the people just make this different. Hawaii's one of them for me. New York's
Okay.
is another place. Like, shout out to New Yorkers. Like, I don't know what they feed you guys, but I know it's a lot of, it's not perfect there, but there's something about that culture and spirit there. Obviously, they
Mhm.
love, military people, but it's just something about that culture there. Virginia is a very shout out, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Um, and so I don't think I've really met a place that I couldn't find something really good about it,
Sure.
And so it goes back to our point that if you think you're going to find a destination that's going to change your life, I think the destination may impact your life, but it will be the people that change your life. And we should all strive to be those people to help change people's lives. And how do we do that? We point them to Jesus. Ultimately, we're all traveling. And this is my greatest point. We're all on a journey because my true ancestry is in heaven. And so that is my ultimate destination. The truth is you can get comfortable down here. You can fall in love with a place, build a home, but guess what? You can't take it with you and you can't stay. And so for the people who have never, maybe you never left your state, your neighborhood, or your city, guess what? You're not missing out. There's a bunch of stuff out there, right? There's a bunch of stuff. Yeah. There's people, there's different cultures, there's different foods, but don't feel like your life isn't fulfilled because you haven't seen the globe, right? I've seen a lot of it, and I still haven't seen all of it. But that doesn't fulfill me. It's the relationships that I currently have. It's being able to link up with Jason and have a conversation and share it with people all around the world. Like, just being able to live this experience through the power of God, you're not missing out on other places. Like, Jason, you killed it. I mean, we got to put that on the shirt. Every place is different, but every place is the same, right? Because we're all made by God. And regardless of what language we speak or the cultures that we believe in, I honestly believe that every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. And at the beginning and end of the day, that's the most important thing. Jesus at the center of life that drives life forward, right? And so I feel like we're all on a journey, and our ultimate destination is to make it to heaven and to see Jesus for ourselves. And so govern yourself accordingly. And if you can travel, it's not a bad thing to do.
Right.
It cultures you, right? But I don't want to leave out the fact that I don't want people to live for travel. It's a good thing to inspire to see the world. It will broaden your horizons and your scope. But there's life worth living where you are. And I think the best thing about leaving where you are is coming home.
Sometimes it is, man.
Sometimes you have to go away, in order to appreciate, home sometimes. I don't know about you, but if you have any number of children and you go on vacation.
I have a number of children. Yeah. Yes.
I'm talking to all the parents out there, and maybe some siblings. Maybe you're a sibling, and when you go on vacation, you're like, I just want to go home.
It's nice to have your bed in your room back.
Just want to go home. Like, that was nice for a couple days. I'm glad to be back where I belong, where I'm comfortable, in my setting. And so, I think the best thing about traveling sometime can be coming home.
We're looking forward to going home. Isn't that funny, man? You can go on vacation wherever you want. Like, for me, the days where you're headed home, that feels so good.
Yeah.
Like, and I just remember walking in the front door of your house after a vacation. The smell is great. Hopefully the air conditioning is feeling just right. I remember days where, like, I couldn't wait for that post-vacation nap.
Yeah.
To just lay down and, like, get my bags in my room. And I'm not going to unpack the bags. I'm just going to lay down and take a nap. Yeah, we had some basketball trips. We had some vacations. We had trips to see family. But man, every time you come home, and by the way, nothing hyper special about my bedroom or the house that we lived in. It wasn't like it had anything to do with that. It was just, I'm in my safe spot. Yeah. I'm in my space again. And I think that kind of pertains to the last thought I had about travel that I want to encourage people with is, everywhere is unique. You said every place is different, but every place is the same. Mm-hmm. How about this one? Every place God can be seen.
Come on.
Every place you can find God.
Get that right.
So I think it's if you have a relationship with God, you get the opportunity to see him on the horizon, looking out the ship window. Yeah. Like, I guess my point is, everywhere I go, like, I can see God in the palm trees that I enjoy.
Let's go.
In Florida or Puerto Rico or the ocean or walking on the beach or in a mountaintop. Like, I think the key is if you have God, you get to see him in all of his creation.
Yeah.
So I actually think it's an added benefit of being a Christian is when you travel, there's no downside because you're like, God did this.
Yeah.
Like, look how crazy. And if God didn't do it, like say it is a country that is not foundationally Christian, God still made the people who, whether they believe in him or not, were able to do these amazing things.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody would argue that the Great Wall of China was built in a Christian nation, but look what man was able to do. And it makes you wonder how much greater is the thing God can do. You know, like all the 7 wonders of the world. You look at the pyramids and you're like, no matter who built that, right? And this is a topic for another episode. Whether it was humans or not humans or aliens or whatever people think it was, God made those things. That's what I know. So I cannot tell you if aliens are real, but what I tell you if they're real, God made them.
There you go.
And so whatever exists, God had his hand in it and was a part of the design of it. And I think that's what's really cool is when you travel, and like we said, challenge yourself, not always to go on vacation, but sometimes travel to serve. But wherever you go, you get to see God in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what can make you appreciate how beautiful the green grass is over here. And then I'm moving over here, man, grass that's green over here looks a little different, but it's also beautiful.
Let's go.
So that's what I would say. Find God in the things, and that's what makes them beautiful. It has nothing to do with the Grand Canyon for me. It has nothing to do with the Pacific or Atlantic Ocean. It has nothing to do with a beach or a snow-capped mountaintop. And I think all of them are beautiful. What it has to do with is God had his hand in them.
Come on, Jason.
God put the system together that helped those plates of the earth crush up and make this beautiful mountain that you get to climb. So I just think it's amazing.
Let's go.
Like I think God can be found in all of it. And I think that's what you're saying too, is in terms of your socialization and the relationships you had in Hawaii, God can be found in those relationships too. And that's what makes everywhere the same is God made everyone and he made everything. So that's the source. I think you and I have talked about this plenty of times is Jesus as the source of life, God as the source of all creation.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
Come on.
Like easily the best part. No question about it. So I've been thankful for the opportunity to travel. I'm thankful that as I've gotten older, I can take my kids and travel. But I hope that they understand what the impact and the benefit of travel is, of living a life is you could travel outside your front door and be like, man, God, thanks for that tree.
Yeah.
I did this the other day in my backyard. I went out and was like, man, and I think you and I were FaceTiming and I was showing you the backyard and stuff. Like, and you even said like, man, look at that big tree.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. Like that big tree is so cool.
Yeah.
It offers shade and it's probably been there way longer than I have. And it will be there way longer than I am.
Yeah.
But how cool that God put it right there and then put us in a position to enjoy the shade of it.
Yeah.
You know, especially on a hot day like yesterday. It was so cool. Like it was like a great thing for you to notice. But I wonder, do you notice those things if God is not at the center of your universe? Like if you were at the center of your universe, everything is based on your finite understanding of it. But if God is at the center of it, I believe you can marvel at things more greatly and not have to fully understand them.
Come on.
Like you were saying how much water is underneath of you in the ocean. I think you can appreciate it because it doesn't scare you because you have a relationship with the God of the universe who created it.
Yeah.
And I do wonder about that. Do people get scared off from traveling to unique places? Do they avoid unique people? Do we avoid relationships if we don't have Jesus at the center? If we have worry or fear or, even worse, I'm about to preach a little bit, so hang on. You can get addicted to comfort, right? And so I struggled with that. I struggle with that. Like comfort, I love me some comfort, man. Like real talk. So that's something I've had to struggle against, fight back against, and push back against in terms of like, man, can I travel from the living room to the kitchen to do the dishes? Like that's some traveling I need to do sometimes and go from here to do the dishes for my family, help my wife, help my kids, take care of our home. You know, that is an important trip to make.
Yeah.
Not always packing your bags and going to Hawaii. right? Not always, let's take that trip to Florida or Memphis or wherever you're going. I think it's move your feet and travel to where you're needed.
Come on.
And so we haven't really talked about it a whole lot, but like Jesus and the disciples traveled a lot by foot, right? There wasn't a lot of leisure, but I bet there was a lot of relationship.
Oh, yeah.
I can guarantee it. In fact, I've read it in this book called the Bible, which I would say everyone should pick up and read during their travels. You need a little light reading. Here's a little ad. We've never done ads before, but pick up a Bible at your local bookstore or on your app on your phone. Because to me, that's the key to what we're talking about, is all of the travels were made valuable because of the relationships involved. Right? And so the disciples, after Jesus was crucified, came back to life, went to heaven. They traveled by themselves across the planet. They didn't like hold hands, all 12 of them, and make sure they all went to the same places for security. They traveled across the world. And then, as morbid as this may sound, they were killed almost to a man. I think one died of old age, but to a man, killed for what they were preaching and believing. So their travels ended poorly. You think missing a flight, you think being tired after taking a red eye home, man, you think that's a bad day? He's like, some people die for what they believe in. And so God can be seen everywhere. Everywhere is the same. Find people, find relationship with people, and it's going to make that place unique. It's going to make your travels worthwhile.
Dude, that's so good.
Boom.
That's so good, dude.
Is it appropriate to do my own mic drop? Like boom. Like,
did it, man.
So that's it. I mean, that's what, to me, that's what travels are about.
So good.
But hey, like super rapid fire questions as we wrap up. What's somewhere you haven't been that you want to go?
Ooh, man. New Zealand.
Okay. Boom. Home of Lord of the Rings trilogy. That's awesome. El Salvador.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Good pick.
I mean, first country to ever make Bitcoin legal tender. So you can buy homes with it. You can purchase anything you want, and they don't do capital gains tax on all those things.
Are you relocating?
So yeah. So that is the one caveat. I did say earlier when it was like, I don't want to be a citizen of anywhere else. I was like, And what I mean is, I love being an American. Like the thing we have built here with God first in our country, like that's awesome. The one caveat being like, I did the other day mention, the potential that if things go sideways here, we would sign up for citizenship to El Salvador and then, live in paradise, as you said.
There you go.
But I think it's like, it's a country where I heard an interview with Nayib Bukele, the president. I heard an interview with him, and man, he like gets it. I think he wants to build a U.S. level economy, a U.S. level infrastructure that centers around safety for its citizens. And so I was like, I can get on board with that. So he seems like a good enough leader that I don't really trust any world leaders. I assume the worst all the time, and that's okay. Like it's a safer thing. But I'm telling you, his interview that I watched recently was like, all right, if anybody was going to win me over, he's one of the guys. So that's somewhere. So New Zealand and El Salvador. If you had to leave tomorrow, where would you go for a week?
Oh man, come on. If I have to leave tomorrow,
you'll have to leave. Let's see what time. You have to leave tomorrow at noon to go somewhere for a week. Where would you go?
Aloha, baby. I'd be in Honolulu. Let's go.
I can feel that. It's Honolulu, not Oahu. You wouldn't go back to
Oahu's the island. Honolulu's the capital. So
my bad. See, I need to travel there because I would not have known that.
I got to get you there.
That's good. Okay, so mine would be, as weird as this sounds. I think mine would be Florida.
Let's go.
Like, I love like a nice Orlando townhouse, like timeshare with the kids and like pool in the backyard, stuff like that. So, we've talked about doing the Ark Museum in Kentucky, I think. Like, I've heard it's just
the big
awesome.
Ark, right? So, it's the huge.
I mean, it turns out there's two buildings. There's like a Ark where they built the Ark and have this whole museum centered around it. But then there's another one where it's like the Creation Museum, and that one's like wild. I've also heard in DC, they have I think it's the Bible Museum, or like it's just biblical history. And I've heard people say they've gone for like 5 hours and you can't get through the whole museum.
Wow.
Like it's like just so much information and so much.
Sounds cool.
So just places to go, people to see. relationships to be had.
Absolutely.
So I think travel is so cool. I think if you never get to travel, you can always travel next door and talk to your neighbor. Like, get to know people.
Yeah.
I think I didn't expect that to be the key to this episode,
Yeah.
but I think that's the key. Warren, my man, would you pray us out?
Absolutely. Man,
I appreciate you, brother.
Such a great episode.
It's really good, right?
Good, man. Good. Wow. Heavenly Father, God, Lord, we thank you, Lord, that we get to experience this earth that you've put us on, God. Heavenly Father, Lord, help us to always keep our life in line with you, keeping you first, Lord, and recognizing that everything that we see, everything we possess, Lord, has been provided to us by you. God, Lord, I pray, Lord, that you bless the travels of your people as they move throughout the earth, Lord, specifically for people who are going on mission trips this summer. God, I pray, Lord, that you send them to do mighty works all over the world, God. And those who are carrying the gospel throughout the world, Lord, I pray that you protect them. And God, Lord, I pray, Lord, that those who are just traveling for vacation, relaxation, Lord, that you be with them as well, God. Help us to see the real meaning for why we get to do the things we get to do. Help us to not take for granted, Lord, the sunshine, the trees, Lord, the water, Lord, that we get to experience, Lord. And help us to not be anxious or to chase things that we don't have. Help us to appreciate what's in front of us, and give you all of the thanks and praise for what we do possess, God. Lord, we thank you for this time. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
Let's go.
I pray you have safe travels wherever you go today.
Absolutely, man. You too. That's what's up.
All right, brother.
Florida, huh?
Maybe.
Summer's not over
We'll
yet,
see.
man.
I'll keep you posted.
Absolutely.
Later, man.